Hey guys, I got a lot of questions in the comment section, so let me do a Q&A session and clarify all of the questions that have been asked. So let's begin with the first one. I think one gentleman has asked, how is the night headlight performance? The headlight performance, right now you see I'm driving in a not very well lit road. There really aren't any much street lights here, but you could see how it looks, and that too when it's raining. Now let me put it on high beam and you can still see this is how it looks. So I'm not sure if the camera can capture the whole of it, but I would rather say that the headlight from my perspective is medium. It's not too good, not too bad. At least the Volkswagens I have driven, they had extremely bad headlights, even in high beam for that matter, because Volkswagen still thinks they manufacture cars for Europe and US, unlike in India where the guy with the brightest light on the road wins. So, or at least so it seems, because that's a very dangerous situation when you have blinding lights coming from the opposite direction. But you could constantly see that is one of the major inconveniences of driving in India. Okay, people with driving in high beams in cities. I don't drive in high beam in cities. Okay, right. And the second thing is horn, incessant horn. Keep on using the horn. There's some people drive the car with their legs on the horn rather than the accelerator. So that's how it is. So moving over to the next question, I hope I answered the headlight question well. The next question is, how is the suspension? Is it stiff? I would like to say it is on a little bit on the stiffer side, but then not too sporty as such, and it's perfect for it. As far as I'm concerned, I think I am comfortable with the suspension setup of this small little car. Yes, it is good. I don't want my cars to have spongy and luxurious suspension setups, because it gives me motion sickness. That's a very fact. If I might tell you a small incident, I had hired a Uber once, and the car turned out to be a Innova, and then we just had a 30-minute ride to a place in the city in traffic, and after that drive I ended up with a dizzy head and motion sickness. It's because Innova is very softly sprung, and it keeps the jolting left right, the body roll is excessive, and so many things, and that's what I don't like. If I may also highlight a little bit of other incidents that I had, was let's say driving in a Sumo, Tata Sumo, way back then when it was a hit. It used to be the official transport for all the IT guys to go to their office, and the days when we had Tata Sumo as a pickup cab, we used to, or at least I, for that matter, I used to end up with a lot of body ache, because the body roll was excessive in Tata Sumo. And when it came to Toyota Qualis, it had a better suspension setup. It was a little bit stiffer, but you were still comfortable in it. The same thing applied to the Tavera, the Chevrolet Tavera. Even that had a pretty decent stiff suspension setup. So my dear friends, I always advocate the fact that the suspension should be stiff. You should get good feedback from the road. That is my taste in driving. If you give me a car with lowered springs and sports suspension, I think Bilstein is one of the companies that manufactures off the market. I think they're add-on accessories. It is available for most of the cars. It's a German company, and they have sports specification based suspension systems and shockers, shock absorbers. I would love to drive in such cars. Seriously, I would prefer stiff suspension over soft and spongy ones any day. All right. Okay, so that is to conclude on that question, and let me move on to the other one. The other one was on-road price. Look, the on-road price, I paid close to 5,70,000, all right, on-road in Bangalore, Karnataka. Karnataka as a state, I think, has the highest road tax in the country and the worst roads in the country too. To go along with it. Outrageous, I tell you, this is seriously, just seriously outrageous. And Union Territory, for example, Pondicherry should be having almost a negligible amount of road tax. So should I think Delhi and various other states, especially. I've seen some commercial vehicles and trucks getting registered in Nagaland. They have an NL registration, and I think they give a lot of tax stops and so on. I think so. It depends from state to state. Some people were asking about their on-road price in their particular, state, like Assam or somewhere. So I'm sorry, I won't be able to comment on that. I just disclosed the one in Bangalore. Now, talking about the same topic, 5.7 lakhs. If anyone goes to the showroom and takes a look at the price list, for sure it won't say 5.7 lakhs. It would say something close to 6.1 lakh or 6,20,000 or something like that. So I said no to a lot of these fringe items that were put in the price list. What were they? First thing was, I remember, as far as I remember, there was something called Nexa card or something, costing about 10,000 rupees. And when I inquired the sales guy on what exactly it is for, he said, you will get points if you go to Nexa Center and get your car serviced and blah blah. That was bullshit. I said, I don't want that. Alright, because I seriously asked him, is it compulsory? Will you not sell the car if I don't buy these? He said no. He had to say no. Alright, and the same thing applied to extended warranty. I said, is it compulsory to buy it? He said, thankfully and reluctantly, he said no. I said, I don't want to buy it, because you get 2 years warranty with the car. All right, you get a 2-year warranty from the company, and for any Maruti car, okay, or any commuter Japanese car, is more than sufficient. You don't need an extended warranty for 5 years and so on. See, there are several reasons behind why I didn't go for a extended warranty. A few that I may highlight was, first of all, who's going to keep the car for more than 2 or 3 years maximum? Okay, so the next point is, see, even if there is a claim, okay, warranty claim, I'm damn sure, I think, the companies, for example, if you go to a service center and there's a warranty claim, they will try to find faults with the customer himself than the product, saying that, oh, you refused it, or you did that, there is water entry, there is you fitted some extra electrical accessories and it burnt something up, blah blah, and those kind of things. All right, so that's a bit disheartening. For sure that customer doesn't seem to be the king at instances where he has to go and claim. I am being a realist, not a pessimist in these cases, because of the ownership experiences that I have in the past. Okay, and I'm speaking from there exactly. So extended warranty should, that's the reason why I didn't go with it. And plus, extended warranty for cars like, let's say, Volkswagen or some luxury car, I think that makes sense, because the cost of the parts itself might be a bomb in the end of the day. It might not be as cheap as what you get for a Japanese car. So I think extended warranty helps if you go for a high-end luxury car. And especially Volkswagens, they had this DSG, direct shift gearbox. They are very complex mechanisms. Okay, you'd rather be in a warranty if not anything else. If in case a DSG gearbox goes off, goes kaput, and then you find out that these mechanics look at it and just blink at it, looking at the complexity of it, obviously. So, you rather have it replaced. What I've heard is the DSG gearbox for gearboxes in Volkswagens or Skoda for that matter, they are units which are directly imported and directly fitted. They don't open it up and fix it, component wise. Obviously, there's no expertise here, and neither I think are the tools available out here to do that. So those kind of things, yes, go with a warranty. Otherwise, no need. All right. Yeah. So, and the third thing which I said no to, I think, was accessories. All right. I didn't get any accessories. I did not want to buy anything because I knew it was available for cheap, and you could select your own stuff on Amazon. So basically they would end up giving you what, maybe foot mats, floor mats, okay, and they will give you mud flaps, they will give you maybe a perfume, some window shades and so on. All of these are available outside, okay, and for sure they will hike up the price. They will keep at least 50% margin is what I'm guessing, and they also play around with the same fact that, oh, we'll give you a discount on the accessories and so on. So I said no, absolutely no to that right away. So to be honest, this did piss off. It did piss off the sales guy because he got to know, very seldom, I guess. I don't know if he meets smart ass customers quite frequently, but then that was a fact. And that's the reason why I got it at 5.7 lakhs OTR Bangalore, right? And moving on to the other questions that I had seen. Let me just see. I have a list of central locking. So central locking, yes, it comes with the base Sigma variant of this car. All right, it does come here. See, I'm not sure if you could see it in the dark, but either ways, there is a central locking out here. Let me show you that. I don't think it will be visible, but central locking is there. Only thing is the remote locking is not there. You don't get it on the key. So if you go to a aftermarket accessory fitter and ask for a remote for the central locking, he can provide you the same. I think Autocop is one of those brands. Only thing is you don't have to pay extra for a central locking system altogether because it comes fitted from the factory. All right. So I use a small, this is a very simple key. There is no buttons on it. Simple, ordinary key. And see, one more thing is, I'm not being paranoid or such. Sometimes too much of technology is bad. I'll be honest. I had seen some YouTube videos where people could actually detect your radio signal from your car remote central locker, and then once you lock, for example, you go to a supermarket and you lock your car with a remote button, and you come back, you find that your car has been robbed. Okay, so what exactly happens is, because there will be some thieves or scammers waiting in some other cars, and they will detect your radio signal and duplicate the same and have your car opened up. All right, so technology, too much of technology sometimes is a problem, you see. So for me, it is a simple mechanical, maybe it's a electromechanical based system for central locking. You just put the key in, twist it, and then close it. So that's how it saves your day probably sometimes. Right. So that's one thing about central locking. And then there was a question saying that which other cars were you considering before buying this? So the cars that I was considering was, one was the Santro, Hyundai Santro base variant, of course, base variant. And why? Because Hyundai had the 4-cylinder engine. Yeah, so by now you would have known that I'm 4-cylinder, if not nothing else. 4-cylinder guy, so that's what I am. At least 4 or above. Right. And the next was LXi Swift. Okay, Swift LXi. And the other one was WagonR 4-cylinder one, that too LXi one. I think WagonR, I didn't like it because of it was very tall, okay, and a lot of body roll. I didn't like the suspension, and of course it was a little bit costlier. Price point was a bit high. Swift LXi, why? Because it was so bare bones basic. It didn't even have central locking, didn't even have front power windows like the one you get here. Even the headrests of the seat were integrated. It looked really tacky. Okay, and only thing you get is ABS, EBD and the airbags. That's about it, and that too for about 30 to 40,000 rupees costlier than the base variant of this Suzuki Ignis. So didn't go with that. Santro, why didn't I go with it? Because Santro also, the kind of features they give you, I think the base variant has power windows but doesn't have center locking, and the next variant has center locking, and both of these it's a bit mix and match is what I found. I think they are very trickily they keep these models on the price list. Okay, the way they arrange it is so tricky that you end up spending more time thinking about whether you should go, or probably you will get more confused and finally give in and just go for the top end model. But that's the way they want you to think, I guess. All right. So that's one of the reasons, and not only that, I'll tell you, I think yeah, basically it's a 1 liter engine, 1 liter engine, and then I did not like the pickup. The pickup that you got in this car was pretty exceptional, and I loved it. But there, once the AC was on, there was a little bit of hesitation in acceleration, so that's the reason why I didn't go for it. And plus, you see, when I compare the pros for this car, it has 15-inch wheels right from the factory, and that is more comfortable to drive in highway and on bad roads compared to 13 or 14-inch wheels that you get with these variants. Even the Swift had a 14-inch wheel, I think, 14-inch wheel for the LXi variant, right? So that is with regards to why, which are the other cars that I considered. There was another similar question saying that you drove the Tiago and then Tata Tiago, yeah, and why did you choose it? That's again, yeah, 3-cylinder car plus, see, the steering was vague, really vague. Maybe it was a new car, that's one of the reasons. But the worst thing about it was the gearbox. Oh my god, it was so rubbery and notchy. I have driven Indicas in the past, and I know how it was. It was very notchy, and I really didn't like it. For me, the gearbox with regards to Swift and Ignis and most of the Maruti cars are pretty precise and crisp. That is what I like. Now, the Santro 2 had a pretty good gear shift, because the models which came with the cable shift gearbox, okay, I think i10 was one of the first cars which came with a cable shift gearbox. That was pretty smooth and neat. Even the new Santro has a cable shift one, and that's a pretty good one. The old Santro Zing, had one of the most horrifying gearboxes. It's like, first of all, it's a long stick. The old Zing, Santro Zing car, the one that you see up front right now. And when you shift into a gear, for that matter, and then let go of the clutch and drive, if you're resting your hand on the gear lever, you can feel the engine vibrations. Okay, not only that, every time you accelerate, the gear lever itself changes its position a little bit. You can literally feel it moving in your hand. That's really awful. I mean, we don't need so much of feedback for all the gear, right? So that's one of the reasons I hate such gearbox, especially the ones that do not isolate the engine vibrations and all the jerks and all the other things that come with it. So one of the reasons, yeah, so that's, I would say, overall why I didn't choose Tiago. Plus, of course, see, end of the day, to be on a safer side, especially when you are considering budget options, go with what's hot selling. I mean, so it's like, on the contrary, one should actually think out of the box and go with other models which give good value for money. But in the end, Maruti has one of the best, I think, resale values, and so is Santro. I think it's probably number 2. So that's one of the reasons, major reasons. All these things play in your mind before you take a decision. Okay, So finally you do it. You go ahead and take a decision and buy a product. So that's the reason why I chose this car. Right, moving on to the other question. I think, yeah, one correction that came in was the ground clearance is about 180 mm and not 190 mm. Thank you guys for correcting me. So for the record, I've corrected that. And then few other, I think there weren't any more questions on these. I hope I have clarified all of it. If you have any more questions, please do put it on the comment box, and then probably I can do a part 2 of the Q&A session that I just did. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my videos and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate it, and I look forward to discussing and continuing this series of videos on automobiles and discussing things further. Alright, thank you so much, and take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.